Hello and welcome to episode 18 of Off the Bandstand. My name is Christian Wiggs. I'm your host. Today is a continuation of the mini-series that we're doing within the show where I'm highlighting all of my collaborators from my most recent record, Between Love and Fascination. And my next guest is Dr. Matthew Maldonado. Matt was the first person who had welcomed me into town and into the scene whenever I first moved to the Austin area about 6 years ago. And over the past several years, he's proven not only to be a close collaborator and a really close friend, but also to be an incredible mentor as well. In this episode, we kind of get into that about how, he played a big role in me kind of figuring out my improvisation and what I should be listening for and guide tones and such. So let's dive into it. We also talk about, his project M.M.E, the Matthew Maldonado Experience, and him kind of cultivating that group as a band leader and figuring out what he wanted to put in his book and what he wanted his sound to be like and all the influences that kind of went into that over the past several years. We also talk about how improvisation can play a really crucial role in composition, and also how some Stevie Wonder tunes, specifically Sir Duke, can summon people with horse masks to come out and do robot dance moves in the middle of a drunken wedding reception. So let's dive into it as quickly as possible. The releases of the week are really exceptional. I mean, two incredible records. The first of which being Alexa Tarantino's Clarity that came out in June of 2020 in the middle of the pandemic. Alexa is becoming a really familiar face around jazz at Lincoln Center and just on the scene in general. She's part of this younger generation of us that are leading the way for people like us, like people like me who I really look up to, like Veronica Swift and Benny Benack III and Stephen Feifke and Alexa, who are performing all over the world, but definitely are household names in the New York jazz scene. And, Alexa's worked with Wynton Marsalis, she's worked with Kurt Elling, she's worked with Cecile McLaurin Salvant, Ulysses Owens, Stephen Feifke, all these amazing people, and this album really shows exactly why she is so successful. Her tone is amazing, the arrangements are killing, they have so many really great grooves, and it's just, top to bottom, an incredible record that really shows how we should be approaching, making records that are worthy of people listening to them. So if you want to learn more about that, you can go over to alexatarantino.com. You can go onto all of the streaming platforms and go and listen to it there. And I believe she has physical copies available on her website as well. And then you can keep up with all of the rest of kind of like the daily posts and announcements on Instagram at Alexa Tarantino. And as always, we've put the links down below so you can access those easily. And then the next album that I want to plug is Doc Watkins, the curator of Jazz Texas, arguably one of the best, if not the best, jazz clubs in the whole state. He puts out his own records, and while all of them are really amazing, I want to highlight the most recent one, which came out in 2019 on New Year's Eve, no less, which is called Songs of 2019. Man, if you want to talk about something that is incredibly thematic and really gives you this this slow burn, the first tune of it is called Slow Burn, or The Slow Burn. Man, this is the record for you. I felt such a feeling of joy, but also it felt very cinematic as well the entire way through. One of my favorites is Odysseus and Argos. Definitely check that out. And then you're listening to Hildebrandt Avenue right now. So if you want to learn more about Doc Watkins and his music, you can go over to docwatkins.com and then go and follow him on all the social media platforms. But also, if you want to go and support venues right now, like Jazz Texas, he doesn't only have, the cream of the crop of San Antonio and Austin jazz musicians. He brings through incredible acts that go and play at his place. So if you want to learn more about Jazz Texas and how you could potentially support that, especially during the pandemic, you can go over to jazztexas.com, and then I'm sure there's some information and some contact information where you can reach out. So go and support Alexa Tarantino's new record, go and support Doc Watkins' new record, and then also moving over to the Monk shows that are, Colin Shook curating all of these shows, keeping jazz alive in Austin, and really highlighting the full gamut of everything that Austin has to offer. Go and tune into those live streams. The next one that we have coming up is Fabio Augustinus and his quartet. That is going to be on November 1st, which is a Sunday. That's going to be at 7:30. They're apparently going to be playing some really incredible Brazilian music. Matt is going to be on it, and he even talks about that at the tail end of this episode. So tune into that. The next one is Marcos Varela and Mike Saylor's quintet on November 6th. That is a Friday. So that's coming up soon. Tune into that. The next one is on November 8th, just 2 days later on Sunday. It's going to be the Clay Downham Trio, and that's going to be super killing. I know I'm going to be listening to that one. And I'm going to be listening to all of them. Who am I kidding? And then November 10th is the next installment of the Austin Jazz Society's Project Safety Net concerts. And that's going to be Elias Haslinger's Church on Monday, which had a long-standing residency at the Continental Gallery. So make sure to tune into that as well. I feel like I say make sure to tune into all of them. But seriously, I mean, if music is healing and there's this good of music going on right now where you can access it from the ease of your home, why not? You know, we need a little bit of positivity, especially right now, and I'm going to need it this next week, so that's what I'm going to be doing. And then last but not least, my show is going to be, well, actually, sorry, Elias Haslinger, November 10th. That is a Tuesday. And then last but not least, my show, the Christian Wiggs Sextet, and it's going to be the Between Love and Fascination album release concert. We're finally able to celebrate that properly. Is going to be on Thursday, November 12th, at 7:30. So tune into that. We're going to be playing most of the tunes off of the new record, if not all of them. We're going to play some of my favorite cordelling arrangements and some other things that have been really inspiring to me and have inspired my arrangements on my records. And then we are going to be playing a couple brand new things from the next record, which is going to be called Esperanza Crossing. And I'm so excited to share that with you. They've been kind of stirring up in the middle of the pandemic. So really excited to kind of put pen to paper and have it come to life and for you to experience it as well. So I think that's everything. I talked for a long time. Now it's time to get in and listen to Matt, drop some wisdom about finding your own sound and presenting your honesty and everything else he has to offer, and a lot of really funny Wayne Bergeron stories as well. So this is episode 18, Dr. Matthew Maldonado. This is Off the Bandstand. Congratulations, for people who don't know, Dr. Matthew Maldonado. Man,
thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Finally done. That was like, okay, so to recap of like your education stuff, did you go to, I guess it's TAMUK or TAMUK?
Yep.
Okay. Cool. So you started there, and did you transfer over to Texas State?
I did. I started there. I was like, man, I don't know if I want to do music, if I want to do this, I want to do that. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to leave. I need to leave. I'm going to try it. Never have before. A lot of South Texas people, they don't kind of leave, where there's always the joke, being a really, really good friend of mine, Noe, childhood friend, where I was like, yeah, man, no one really leaves. Leaving is getting past Corpus Christi and Cal-Al, and you're like, oh, we're going to go on vacation to San Antonio, That's a big deal, because it's a couple hours away. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to transfer. And I left, and I went to Texas State. And when I went, I already had a couple friends there. Damian Garcia, one of my close friends from We Were Little Kids. Kingsville? No, he's from Laredo, but we met in Kingsville. Okay. But let me tell you about that. So I knew Damian. Those of you who don't know, Damian is a ridiculous piano player. Incredible piano player. Leaving to Japan, I think, next 2021.
Because he got the teaching gig, right?
something. I don't know. He's crazy, but I love that guy, man. But he's gonna do it. But I've known Damien since we were little kids. Like we would go to All Region Jazz and stuff, and he was there. So I've known him for that long since we were like 16. So now it's like, man, we're like 33 now. It's like, oh man, it's a little wild to think when you think about it. You know, you can actually say, well, back in my day, I knew him when we were kids. You know, it's like, okay, but yeah, Texas State, man. I
Well,
loved
man,
it.
I remember, like, to your point, I remember us playing a gig together with David Mescatique,
Mhm.
and uh, there was like a really like sentimental moment where like he had like I think we were on break and we were at the bar and you were like, man, David, you sound so good, man.
Yeah,
Like,
he sounds great.
you're like, congratulations too on like getting out of Kingsville. You're like most people don't like do that, or like out of South Texas, I guess, because he's
Yeah,
from
yeah, yeah.
Colorado, right? And I remember that like sticking with me for some reason. I was like, oh man, that's like really amazing. I didn't know that that was like a stigma. That it was,
Kinda. It's not like
it's not a
it's.
stigma, but yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean to. First thing I'm gonna say is, anyone watched it? I don't mean like if you stay there, you're dumb. No, man,
sure,
it's a great place to live. It's a great place to grow up. I love that I grew up there. Yeah, it
yeah,
would have been cool to. Well, I grew up in the Bronx and New York. Yeah, that's cool, you know. But it's like I grew up in Kingsville and I loved it, and I wouldn't change any of that for the world. But a lot of times, you know, it's the family thing. A lot of you don't want to leave. You know, you don't want to try things out and a lot of people, especially down in South Texas, they kind of stay there, which is fine, man.
yeah,
But we're like, hey, man, congrats on getting out of there. You know, it's a big deal. It is. There's
yeah,
maybe like 10 of us, 15 of us that I know, and it's a lot of people are still down there working and doing their thing. They have houses and kids and all that stuff, and I'm
yeah,
just like, I'm good. I'm gonna keep doing my thing. But no, that's. I just wanted to say that. I don't want to say it's
yeah. No,
like
for
a
sure. And
like
so
a
many of
put
us
down.
have, so many of us have houses here in Austin. You know, as
Oh
jazz
yeah.
full time music.
Oh, for sure, dude. One of my Westlake houses is next to Joe Rogan's. I had to help him move in. I was like, bro, come on. Nah. I can't believe he's here, by the way. That's amazing.
Did he make the move?
He is. He lives in Austin.
Oh wow.
Hmm.
Okay. Well,
Is that pretty cool?
yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool. You're like, actually, right after this interview, I'm going over. I'm going to be on the Joe
I'm at
Rogan.
his house right now, bro. Can't you tell?
Yeah, man. Okay, so then you were at Texas State, and then did you finish the bachelor's
I
there?
did. I did.
Okay.
I finished there, started the master's, and I was like, this isn't for me right now. And I dipped out. And I was teaching lessons full time.
Yeah.
Um, man, I had like a heck of a studio with a lot of students, flute, clarinet, and mostly saxophone, and just living in San Marcos, met a lot of great friends. Had a lot of times, special times there. You know, you wouldn't change for the world, man.
Yeah.
You met a lot of cool people in San Marcos.
Dude,
It's such a cool
speaking,
place.
speaking of that too, like of the people like from like Kingsville and McAllen and South Texas, like
Hmm.
it seems like a lot of you guys came up with like to Texas State, like because there's Frank and there's Karen and there's Jerry and there's you and there's David and
Uh
Damien,
huh.
right? So
Yep.
is that like did it ever feel like at Temuk that Texas State was almost like a school that they not like pushed, obviously, because they don't want anybody to not go to their school,
Hmm.
but was that something where it was like, hey, there's like really good faculty over here in case you're thinking about transferring?
No, it. Here's the funniest thing for me. I just knew that Damien left, and I wasn't following Damien and that like, oh, I'm gonna go and see that school because Damien's there now, or some other friends there. I was just like, I heard of the school. Man, I didn't really wasn't really looking for schools, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try Texas State. I
Mhm.
hear it's a good school. I hear they have a good music program. I'm gonna try it out. And I know that man, Jerry and then Frank and all those guys. Now the way that kind of worked out, I'm not saying oh I was the one that brought them with me or they came with me, but what kind of worked out was I think it might have been it was Bennett Wood,
Mhm.
Russell Hay. This was after I left. After I left, they started bringing in some teachers uh, to kind of I don't know. I guess kind of bring up have a little bit more jazz stuff.
Like they were bringing in those teachers to Temuk?
These
Okay.
were when those guys might have been in finishing up their doctorate or
Okay.
something like that, or some sort of thing like that. And so, boom, there you go. There comes all these guys, you know. And like I was already out. I was already studying at Texas State, but they brought down Russell Haight was coming down, Bennett Wood, another ridiculous saxophone, super nice guy. I'm trying to think who else. Scott Benner, monster sax player.
Who were you studying with whenever you were at Texas State? Because I guess from when I got there, it was just like Russell. So like that's all I ever knew. So who was there?
Oh, there was another one. No, there was two. That's the thing. So there's also Dr. Oxford, Dr. Todd Oxford, who was an unbelievable classical saxophonist, musician. He's a great musician. But it was Russell Hay came on my last year to come and, to help us out and teach. But I was with Douglas Skinner. I was doing classical saxophone. I'm a classical saxophonist first. That's where I learned how to do that's how I could even play the horn, So it was cool, So I was with Doug Skinner.
Yeah, man, that's an interesting thing to bring up, and I'd love to pick your brain about that because I feel like sometimes I get, I don't want to say anyone turns their nose up at me for this, but I do feel like there's somewhat of less of a legitimate feeling that I was a classical major who was like doing, my main thing was jazz at night during my degree, but I was doing that classical degree so that way I could learn first and foremost. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love classical music and Baroque music, but the idea was to learn how to fully use my voice in a way where I could unlock every single facet and every single style, which I thought would then assist me not only in combo singing and things in like restaurants or clubs, all the way up to big band, because if you're with a 15, 20 piece big band, you have to be able to sing over that. But sometimes I feel like I got a little bit of a, oh, you sing jazz, but you're not really one of us because you're doing a classical degree. So for you also being arguably the top sax player in like Austin and the area, which I know you're the most humble guy, seriously, arguably being one of the top guys and definitely one of the top calls, did you feel like you got any of that backlash for being a classical major in your bachelor's?
No, and I think why is because you couldn't, because it's like when you're playing, I don't know, I don't think so, because when I was playing jazz, you could just tell, oh, he's a jazz player. But when I'd show up and play in like a wind ensemble or something, I sound like a wind ensemble guy. Sure. There wasn't like a mix. Now I could probably plop on a classical mouthpiece. I still teach, classical saxophone. It's my primary thing. And you could probably tell a little bit that I'm a little leaning towards the jazzy side now because I don't focus on it. But you really couldn't tell, and I didn't get too much backlash just for the fact that, well, one, it's a saxophone. And everyone's like, well, man, if you don't play jazz, you're an idiot. And it's like, well, calm down, man. Look at Todd Oxford. Look at Stephen Page at UT, man. Those are some of the best saxophone players I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
Jim Worth. I don't know if you know Jim Worth. He taught at Kingsville. He went to UT. A saxophone teacher that was a good friend of mine and was my teacher. And now we're friends. And all those guys, they're classical guys too. So no one really pokes so much at it because they know you're splitting the time, I guess.
Yeah.
And you have to. I don't know that many guys who are just doing, well, I teach just jazz.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Relatively, jazz education is a new thing, too. So it's like...
Which is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting to see that it's a new thing. And I think it should be... There should be more, overlap between. It's, you don't know how many calls I get, man. Matt, I'm playing a concerto and there's an improvisatory section, and I go, what? What? There's an improvisatory, improvising, and I'm like, oh, I got you. Oh, okay, yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times some of the, and it's not their fault. And it's not like they're like, jazz is stupid. No, or improvising is dumb. They don't get to experience both. And,
yeah.
I really, really hate that. Especially, a lot of the singers, a lot of the vocalists, man. There's some, I mean, in Texas State, come on, there's a lot of powerhouses. UT, there's a lot of powerhouses, and it's just like, wow, there's some really great teachers, but they don't want you to show up there and sounding jazzy. I remember, people having recitals and stuff, and they're like, well, I don't know if I want to hear you do jazz.
Yeah.
This is your thing, and it's kind of like, man, I honestly always think this, and it's so important to me, styles and stuff. It's like, if you can't do it all, then what are you doing? Like,
Yeah, right.
now if you're so good at that one thing, man, do it. If that's your focus, do it. Do it. If you're like, I played saxophone my whole life, I just want to play flute, then do it, man. If you're killing it and you want to commit, then commit. But like, I just hate when it's like, it has to be this way. And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. But I mean, like for you, like you are called for a lot of different things because of that fact, and being a for hire contract musician, full-time musician, especially people who don't have like teaching gigs on the side or like private lesson students, like you do have to really be able to run the gamut of all the different styles so you get the maximum amount of calls, because at the end of the day, you have to pay those bills and you have to put some money in the bank. So yeah, I'm curious also, like how you feel about, because you do a bit of writing too, or I shouldn't say a bit, like you write. So how do you feel that improvisation plays a role in creating and writing, not only in jazz, because obviously jazz is really built on improvisation, because it's like a head and then however many minutes of or forms of solos and then going back to the head out. But especially in classical music, how do you, or just anything outside of jazz, how do you feel that improvisation and having that know-how influences writing and the ability to compose?
So this is strictly for jazz, or just broad?
Just in general, man.
Man, having the thing is, not being afraid to improvise and to speak what you have inside you. I don't care. Okay, real quick. I had an interview, and I was doing the dissertation, and gosh, why can I not remember his name? He's like the most important sax guru in LA. Well, the name will come to me in a minute. And he goes and says, man, you got to not be afraid to improvise, and improvisation is the key to being able to write. He goes, it's the key to being able to express your own feelings. And I was like, wow, that's pretty true. It was off topic, talking about something else. And he said that, and I was like, okay. He goes, it's your own honesty. And I was like, yo, that's deep. He goes, when that guy, he goes, I had to play a movie scene and the guy improvised or whatever. That was his honesty and his own thing. And I was like, yeah, that is the craziest thing I've ever heard. So like, I guess tying into this, it's like, it's important. It's important to understand how to improvise and to be able to express yourself and not be afraid. But when you're trying to write and things like that, man, if you understand what's going on in the music and you're following, and it sounds good, oh, you follow your heart. But if you follow what's inside of you and you understand and you have an idea and you get the feeling, I feel it sounds this way. Even if you're a classical player, or it's like, man, this type of music leads me to this type of improvising idea,
sure,
then you should do it, That's why we practice scales. That's why we learn we learn about harmony, and we learn about all these things, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, now can you make something up?
Yeah.
And, dude, man, everyone's like, straight up, they shit their pants. I mean, it's flat out. I mean, I sit here and I'm like, I got to write a tune for the Alton and myself. We had that quintet, and I was like, I have to write a tune because I don't want to be a chump, and I want to put out a tune. That'd be fun. And you sit there and you have to think about it, man. It's important to know that you're like, man, you can't be afraid of it. You just have to do it. It's just so important to just improvise and to try to express yourself. It's all it is expression. And everyone's like, well, what about the theory and all that stuff? Of course, you got to know about the theory, but it's expressing yourself. And really, if you can't express yourself, you can't play.
Yeah.
No one wants to hear someone who just sings stagnant or plays stagnant. That's a part of improvisation too. I feel. I don't know. I know
Yeah.
it's a long-winded, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, to a couple things I thought about. One, on your very last point where you were saying, like, yeah, the theory, but also like you just have to like feel it too. Is I was listening to June Lee, like I heard it a million times, but listening to June Lee interview Jacob Collier, where he was like
Mhm.
asking him all these questions about, how do you think about this thing over this, and he was like, yeah, at the time he had just won the Grammy like 2 days prior for You and I on his
Oh yeah.
2016 record, In My Room. And he's like, at this part you sing, B pentatonic over like C major, whatever it is. And which is just like, I don't know. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation. But and he was like, how does that make sense to you? Because it just like nothing lined up, like in theory. And he was like, well, I guess I could explain it here, this. He's like, but to be honest with you, I just heard it in my head and I sang it, and I could explain to you after the fact why it made sense to me in the moment, but really it was just like an honest expression of what I was feeling at that moment, you know,
Yeah.
tracking. Um, Another question that I had thought about was, um, in the idea of improvisation and how that correlates to composition, have you ever improvised something on a gig or like on a ballad or anything like that? Usually, I only use the example of ballad because typically that's where there's more space where we can latch on to ideas that are a little bit
Hmm.
more poignant. But do you ever like record yourself playing a solo on a gig and you go, oh, not to be like self-indulgent or narcissistic, but you say, oh man, what I played there or what I experienced in that moment is really good melody. Maybe I should make a tune out of that.
Hmm.
Like just something that you played on a whim. Have you ever had that experience, or do you think that's like a valid experience in and of itself?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. That's funny. So on a gig, no, and for the reason I say that is because I'm so engaged on the gig, and I know is I have to play and I have to play. I have to do it. But when I'm writing, this is where I got from Doctor Mills, man,
Mm,
Dr. John Mills, man, is a mentor right there. It's my mentor. So taking some compositions lessons with him, and he goes, well, he's like, man, you play. He's like, you could play anything you want. And I was like, okay, whatever, I
yeah.
guess. And he's like, you could do what you want. He's like, why don't you come up with some little riff or something, record the riff, and then why don't you just start soloing? He's like, start
Mm,
improvising. So what I do, man, is I just make a riff, put it on, like, I'll put it on and play some crappy piano. Or, dude, my Iwi, I don't even know where the heck it's at.
yeah, man.
Somewhere. Get on the EWE, make a bass line, go over there, do the finger drums, put on I Real B or whatever, and
Mm,
I improvise.
yeah.
And you sit there and you're like, "Whoa, that's a cool idea. Oh, what was that?" And then you take your information and then I'm literally just soloing. One, I get to have fun. It's like getting to solo is fun. If you don't like this, if you're a musician and you play jazz and you like, I hate soloing. Really? Like,
Yeah.
everybody wants to solo who's a jazz, bro. you know?
If
But man,
not, you're
that's
in
the
the
way
wrong
I do
business,
it.
man.
What's
Oh,
up?
like I was saying, yeah. If you're not, you're in the wrong business. Like I remember, this is a bit of a non sequitur, but I remember being in high school region jazz in like senior year, and there was this one guy who like would always wreck in the classical stuff, but we were at region jazz in like Alvin, Texas, and he was like playing a solo and we were like, man, like he sounds really good. His name was Matthew Mondragon, which is like what a name. uh
Interesting.
yeah. And
Oh, that's funny.
so but anyways, he was playing a solo and we were like, man, like this is pretty hip, like what he's playing at the time, we thought. And then something happened with they were this is how old school it was. They were using a CD player. They put a CD in for like the backing track,
Yeah.
and
IAG.
the CD skipped, man. And so they had to like in stop in the middle, and I think he was playing like rhythm changes. And then they were like, "We're so sorry for the disruption. We have a new CD. We're gonna place it in." And they put it in again,
and we listened again, and this dude played the exact
Exact.
same solo, man.
I knew it was coming.
Dude, it was the exact same thing. And like then we're all like we're like snickering, we're trying not to laugh, and we're like, this is fake, because when this guy gets to like region or whatever, in all those rehearsals, people are gonna catch on, or like Allstate, if he made it that far, people are gonna catch on that he's playing the same thing over and over and over on the same pages, because it's choreographed. But anyways, I didn't know how I got back onto that, but yeah.
No, I know what you mean. I've actually had people call me and ask, "Can you write a solo for my student?" My answer is, I give you ideas for your student, and I will gladly take them in.
Yeah,
man, I'll give you couple free lessons. I'll give you all the knowledge I have on how he or she can be a better soloist, or But I can't write out Gissy. So here you go, play that. Come on, man.
Yeah. Well, and to speak back to your original point where you were saying, how are you a jazz musician and you don't want to solo? I felt, before I could put it into words, I felt very inadequate on the bandstand whenever I was first starting, because of the fact that I would like sing the head, and at the time, my classical influence was, I wasn't listening to enough horn players like as much as I should. I was listening to horn players, but I wasn't listening intently, and so like my classical side of things was kind of dominating my real dark timbre and such. But then I was like, this is boring, man. I was like, I'm singing the head in, and then all these killer people, who at the time were like you and Ross and, like Marcus Graff and like Natty, who me and Natty, Nathaniel McKay, thing, came up together in the same hometown and are still really good friends. And I was like, man, this is boring. So like, I feel like such a novelty. Like I'm not actually part of the band. It's like I introduce it almost like an MC, and then I'm like, all right, and now I'll let you guys do all the heavy lifting. So to your point about, if you're not here to improvise, what are you doing? I felt that, and then I was like, oh yeah, it's because I need to be scatting. And I attribute an incredible amount of my ability to scat and kind of the rigorous efforts for that to you, because you were very much like guiding me in the right direction, and you weren't like sugarcoating it. You weren't an asshole about it, but you weren't sugarcoating it. Like I'll never forget. I was you probably know where I'm going.
I don't know. I'm scared.
I'll never forget, man. Like I was already scatting for probably like a year at this point, like year and change. But we were playing this outdoor gig in like November at like Fair Market, where we were supposed to be wearing these red bow ties, and we forgot to put them on. And we were with Utah, no less, like another person who was
Fabio.
Dude,
it was 40 degrees.
Freezing outside. And then I decided to call moment's notice, man. And we're on the gig, and like we were all frozen, but especially you guys. I mean, like Fabio's got like Fabio's got, but you have to at least have like the fingerless gloves, and your fingers were like, you're like, dude, this is the worst.
I can't play this fast right now.
And so you just looked at me, and I was like, make the moment last. The time is moving fast. Don't delay. And I looked over to you, and you went.
Yeah, I was like, nah, bro, I'm gonna pass on this one. I was like, like, oh, I can't do this.
But I didn't want to have like a lame solo break for the first one. I was gonna plan on taking the second solo, but then like to that point, like I guess the tongue gets cold too, and I locked up, man, and I shifted it. I was like,
it happens. I remember the gig. I remember exactly what was going on too. Was that outdoor? It was like on East 6th or 7th or something.
East 6, yeah.
It was cool. Yeah. It was a cool spot for sure.
It was, man. It was really cool. But yeah. Anyways, all of that to say, then I've, you know, did the tail between the legs, like walk away, like at the end of the night, whatever. And I texted you and then started to like send you things from like even just the duo.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
I
I
was
remember
like,
that. I remember that.
man, like, what do I need to be doing here? What do I need to be doing here? And it was, uh, what I specifically remember leaving a Tuesday night at Hotel Indigo, and I felt really good about this one solo. And so I sent it to you. It was like me and David and James. And you were like, man, like you're singing stuff that fits over the changes, but you're not hitting the guide tones. You're not hitting like the third.
Oh yeah. If you want to be more specific, yeah.
Yeah, and you told me, you're like, what you really need to do is pick tunes that you want to improvise over, or just like pick a handful and go to the piano instead of playing changes along with it in time. You need to just play the thirds and sevenths. You're like,
Oh yeah.
sound off, but you're going to learn a lot about like what those actually mean, and that changed my life, man. That made it to where I was like,
Sweet.
whoa, like opened up a whole thing. I know I just talked for a really long time, but just to further like laud you with compliments and say like about how much your education and even in just like a peer-to-peer kind of situation really shaped the way that I thought about improvisation. So anyways,
I appreciate it. Well, I mean, what the masters do, man. I mean, yeah, I know they're not sitting there going through the thirds and stuff, but when like you're trying to hear something, I mean, it all goes back to taking lessons with Russell, talking with the professors around here. Man, talking to Doug Webb, one of my favorite tenor players out in LA. Monster, man. I mean, that dude's played with everyone. He's a bad dude. He's still there. He's still kicking. He's still playing, doing movies, and they talk about you got to be able to run the changes and learn the changes and stuff, and it's cool. It's helpful, but obviously you got to learn the language too. But
yeah,
it's nice to be able to hear what what you want to do.
Yeah.
Can't hear it, can't play it, can't hear it, you can't sing it.
Yeah. Have you played, because I know you were booked to do something. I'm not sure if you've done it. No, I think you did. Anyway, why am I thinking about it when I could just ask you? Have you worked with Wayne Bergeron on anything?
So check this out. Let me give you a pretty cool little story. This is a good one. So I was at Tamook, and I was doing whatever in school. He shows up. We got to play with Wayne. Super cool. And I'm like, wow, that's Wayne Bergeron. He's incredible. Yeah. Cool. Then, a couple years later, he comes back, plays with us at TMEA. And I'm like, oh, sweet. And he's like, oh, I remember you. You were playing alto last time. Yeah. Now you're playing the tenor chair. And I was like, oh, cool, yeah. All right. Years pass, years pass. 2 or 3 years ago, I get a call. And it's a buddy that was in school with me from, back in Tamook. This is years ago, man.
Yeah.
And they're like, yo, Wayne Bergeron's going to be there. And I go, no way. And I made sure I'm not taking any gigs that day. Yeah. And it's like at the point of my career, too, I'm like, man, any opportunity is a good opportunity.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, Wayne's there. Man, what if he likes me? What if he hates me?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's been years. So I show up. And I went up to him. And he goes, hey, I remember you. And he goes, oh my gosh. He's like, it's been, 8, 9 years, 10 years? I was like, it's been a long time. And so he was just, man, the kindest guy. And sure enough, he, we talked and stuff. We exchanged information. He had actually given me his number after that TMEA thing. And not like, me. No. I had asked, how do I, what do I do? I'm in a small town. And how do I get to the level you're at, and like you talking about jam sessions, blah, 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 blah. We talked once. He's very, very sweet, kind enough to give me his number, cool guy. And I didn't really follow up after that. I was like, forget it. But we actually exchanged numbers on a professional level now.
Yeah.
And so like we're not talking all the time by any means, but he goes, let me know if you ever come out to LA. And I was like, man, one of my best friends is out there. Went out there and I got to see him, and he was just the nicest guy in the whole world, man.
Yeah.
Just a cool dude. I mean, it's Wayne, man. It's like, top trumpet player or top 3 lead player in the world, maybe?
Yeah. Well, the reason why I bring him up is because you were talking about LA and like people like recording movie scores and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And to kind of like bring that around full circle of like what we're talking about with being versatile, that dude is on more movies than, anybody else. Not anybody else, but you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And that dude also can like lay down.
Yes, he
like
can.
lead or the solo chair, So man, I'll never forget too a situation where I'd met Wayne Bergeron because Brazoswood, my high school, was we went to the first annual like jazz festival that they had in Allen, Texas, which is like a suburb, I guess, of Dallas in the DFW Metroplex. And it was the 4 judges and like main big guys that were putting on a concert after the day of competition was Wayne Bergeron, Dennis DeBlasio, Frank Green, and Stockton Helbing, who's the drummer for like Doc Severinsen and was the last drummer for Maynard. And then was with Doc Severinsen and just have like played with so many people. Anyways, I remember us getting there late the night before into the hotel, and they were staying in the same hotel, and like we had seen the 4 of them up there like getting their keys, and we were all just like, oh, whatever. And then Dennis DeBlasio and Stockton Helbing had like already gone up, but we went to go to the elevator, and Wayne Bergeron and Frank Green like walk up, and we're all just like frozen. And Wayne can tell, he's not like an arrogant person by any means whatsoever, but he could tell that we were just kind of like starstruck because we were doing like the side eye thing.
Yeah.
And he was like, "You guys play trumpet?" Because like me and Natty were standing there. I had my torpedo bag on, and Natty had his gig bag. And we were like, "Yeah, we play trumpet." And he was like, "All right, cool, man. I'll see you guys tomorrow." And then like we made a little conversation, and then it got silent again. And then while we're waiting for the elevator, he just goes, we took a picture, and then we got in the elevator, and it was silent. And he just goes, "Hey, Frank." Frank goes, "Yeah." He goes, "You just grabbed my ass," and just like he's like the funniest dude, man. Like
he doesn't care,
man. And he told us, he was like, "All right, look, man." He's like, "You guys can shed tonight," which I didn't know that term at the time. That was the first time I had heard the term shed. He's like, "You're gonna shed tonight," and I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna shed." And then and Natty was like, yeah. And he was like, "All right, man." He was like, "Just don't do it too late, because my wife right here, she'll come and pound on your door. She like gives zero." She was like, he's like, "Come over and like, just like bang on the door."
Dude,
he's so fun, man.
He's a sweet guy, man. So like, just to show you how nice he is. After we played, we had like it's just this thing in Victoria, Texas. They had this really cool thing, that little jazz festival. They had Andre this past time, and
oh, cool.
Yeah. And so it's like, okay, we're gonna have a little party after. We're gonna after party. They barbecue. We're gonna hang out and just chill. Our last night there, and he goes and he shows up, and we're like, "What the heck?" He's at the house. He's out there sitting with eating fajitas. And can I get another tortilla? Yeah, I'll have another tortilla. He's there rolling it up. And then my buddy was like, "Bro, you got to put some butter on it." And he's like, "All right." And he's just chilling and just having a good time. And it was just so funny, man. It was like, this dude. And his joke, man, he did it every time I've played with him so far. He always goes, "All right, man, we had a good night last night." He's like, "What do you say?" And he calls out someone in the band, or usually the band director, the head of the director of the group. He goes, "Oh, it's nice to be in men's clothing again, huh?" And we were with a bunch of high school kids and like middle school kids, and I was just sitting there like, oh, man. He didn't give a crap, dude. I was like, "Oh, this guy's funny, man." But man, he's a cool dude.
Man, it made me think about, maybe I shouldn't tell this story, but I'll say it's not that bad. So the next year, for my senior year, Stockton Helbing comes and is a guest artist for our like jazz festival at the end of the year in Lake Jackson called Jazzorama.
Jazzorama.
Yeah, I know. And so So he's there, and obviously he recalls that we were at the Allen Jazz Festival. He remembers us, and he goes, oh man, he's like, I'm just texting Wayne right now. Let me get him on the phone, like in the middle of a rehearsal we were having. And all of us were like, whoa, this guy's phone number. And at the Allen Jazz Festival, there was the lead alto player in the band pulled out an iwi, like he had an iwi with us. And he had played it, and it was like, it was a valiant effort, I'll say that.
It's hard to play.
There was this dude, it was like the clam of all clams. It was like, ba 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 da ba ba ba, but it like definitely did not fit over the changes, like at all. Like we didn't know for changes, but we knew that was like it did not. And he did it at the Allen Jazz Festival. So now fast forward, we're at this rehearsal, and Stockton calls him, puts him on speakerphone, which was probably problem number one.
Oh no!
He calls him and he goes, hey Wayne, what's up, man? He's like, oh, nothing much. I'm just doing well. How are you? And then he goes, oh, I'm good. I'm over here in the middle of a rehearsal with Brazos Woods PM Jazz Band. And he goes, oh man, yeah, I remember them from last year. He's like, yeah, they had that one guy who like clammed on the iwi, right? But he didn't know he was on speaker. But here's the kicker: the guy who clammed the iwi was still in the section.
Oh, that's horrible. Poor kid.
I know. No. And I mean, he took it in stride. Like it was.
Yeah,
it was just like
just messing around. Stupid iwi. Buying that thing was the coolest and worst decision of my life. That's fun. Picked it up, got pretty good, but the first day I was like, I'm gonna be able to play this. Plugged it in, started to play. I'm like, nope. Took the L for the day. Took the loss. Yeah.
But still, I mean, that's like when did you buy that? When did you start playing iwi?
When I realized that I'm not leaving my apartment for a while.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like a gift for myself, kind of like, all right, I'm done with school.
Yeah.
Let me buy something dumb. Yeah. Kind of thing. I was like, well, I'm not going to go anywhere. I was like, well, I'm going to go back to LA, or I'm going to go take a trip. I'm going to go to Seattle. I'm going to go somewhere. Maybe go to Nashville. So I was like, nah, I'm going to buy an iwi. Bought the iwi, and it's so fun. It's just it's just so cool, man. You know, sitting here and you're trying to figure out how to match the sounds to like Bob Mintzer and Brecker and all these guys who are no slacks, you know, to playing the iwi. And you start to figure out, you're like, this is a whole another world.
Yeah.
Like it's the coolest thing I've ever played for sure. But man, it's like, what do you want to sound like today?
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah.
Want to sound like a cat? Go vid.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Bob Mintzer, man, like I also saw like on like some of your credits that you played with Bob Mintzer. So when was that?
Dude, so the jazz festivals, I've been showing up to jam sessions. There he is, man.
Yeah.
Like I've done it twice with him, one in Kingsville and one in Texas State. It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
And then
one that was that the same one that you and I sat right next to each other?
Yeah. When I went to go, I just went to see him that one time, but they had brought him in another time with the band, and I got to play with him there. But also, man, you know, you just get calls. You're like, oh, you want to play in this random big band? I'm like, sure. I don't even know what band it was. Man, I got to think about that. Someone put a band together, and they brought Bob Mintzer down, and wow. I got to sit there and play, and I got to talk and hang out with them. And I mean, he's a cool dude. You know, he's kind of fed up with, you know, some stuff, like he's over some crap. You know, just kind of like, whatever. I don't really want to deal with you guys or whatever. But he's the real deal, man. He's the best. I mean, he is one of the most incredible musicians I've ever. I'm listening to him today, transcribing some stuff today, man. Just hearing him play gnarly stuff. You know, he's another guy who it's just like he writes stuff for strings, and then all of a sudden he plays with the Yellow Jackets, and I'm like, come on, dude. And then he plays. Then you see him with Jocko playing bass clarinet on Donna Lee. You're like, go to hell, man.
Yeah, man. The first big band record that I listened front to back. I mean, obviously, like in high school, I'd listened to some other stuff, but the first big band record I listened front to back was Latin for Manhattan.
Oh, buddy,
Because
I
we
have
played
that
we played
somewhere
it on the show.
over here. Yeah, and
Yeah.
then the art of the big band, another banger, man. I mean, he is the most authentic, like one of the most authentic writers. And people make fun of like a lot of his early stuff. They're like, man, I'm gonna play another Mintzer chart, and like, can you write like that? No, all right, hush. Just play the chart, man. Have fun, just do it. And yeah, of course he writes corny stuff. What is he writing for? Is he writing for all these big bands all the time, like the professional? No. Who is he writing for? For accessible stuff for young students, middle-aged students.
Yeah.
He's writing for colleges. He's writing etude books. He's writing for people who are learning. Then you go and hear his band. How come you weren't saying anything then? Oh, I wonder, because he is just writing bangers.
Well, it's that whole thing of like, it's that whole thing of know who you're writing for, and also like another thing with that too is I was talking to somebody about this the other day, but it might have been on one of the episodes, I can't remember, but saying that if everything was just super dense and I mean killing nonetheless, but like if everything was super dense all the time, how alienating is that to like kids who don't know, a swing groove from a straight eighth groove, So like you really have to be able to have some things that like to the person who is super experienced sounds like, oh, this is kind of a lame chart, but it needs to be accessible so that way you start to get people involved, especially at like the middle school and high school level.
Dude, absolutely, man. Like when I was fortunate enough to be in charge of the second big band at UT, and I'm like, man, this is cool, And the best part, they're like, all right, cool. These are the dates of the concerts. These are the days you rehearse. You get your charts here. See you then. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I was pretty pumped about that because I love big band stuff. I think it's super cool. I love combo more than life. I love that, but I love big band. It's my favorite thing. I know charts. I know where to get them and what it is and this, that, and the other. So, man, putting these charts together, man, I would go and grab like a Brecker chart, like Peep or something hard, And then I'd go and grab Shiny Stockings.
Yeah.
And then I'd go and grab Cottontail, Yeah. And then, and then I'd grab something from Atomic Basie. And then I'd go and get something, man, doing it all, being able to play all these numerous things. And it's like all the music's out there. You get an opportunity to play it and get a hold of it, man. It's cool. And a lot of times I'd grab a Mintzer chart, and there's a lot of stuff. I love Gordon Goodwin. I think I love he does this thing. It's his niche. It's but you got to hear some of his earlier compositions. They're not as commercialized, I guess. Not that his stuff now is BS by any means. It's incredible. Yeah. But it's amazing, man. It's all that big band stuff I love it. And so I gotta choose. I was picking stuff from every type of hoping that the students are always like, these charts are cool, and I'm like, well, I hope you like it because I want to play them too,
Yeah, and that I mean, to speak of Gordon Goodwin too, I mean, I think like any good high school jazz educator is going to do, they're going to like pick some of that stuff to get people involved in early on. And I remember we played I don't know if you know Get in Line from the Big Fat Band, and I remember just for the first time feeling like, oh shit, like hard groove. I was like and some people could say whatever they want about it now, but like it did its job, which was get me involved with this, like that bass line. I was like, I was like, ooh, this just feels so good, and that's what led me to, start to dig into some of the other stuff. And then like around that time, then somebody was like, hey man, check out this record. And I was like, oh, okay, what's it called? And they were like, it's called Ear Food from Roy Hargrove, and I was like, all right. And then I listened to that, and I was like, whew. And like, just specifically, like even to this day now, I mean, obviously, you know, Roy Hargrove is something we can listen to over and over again, but I listened to that on my run today. You know, I just put on ear food. I listened to that front to back.
Oh man.
And it made me not even focus on the run. Like I was just like, all right, I'm just going. I'm just intently listening. And then I realized I was back home, and I was like, well, I'm not done with the album yet, so I got to keep going. You know, so
you got to keep going.
Yeah,
dude. I was listening to. I'm going to look it up right now. I was on Spotify earlier, listening to what's the album? It's an RH Factor one. Distractions.
Oh, I don't know that one. Is that a quintet thing?
Yep, the RH Factor, thing. And I was listening to that. I saw a buddy from Dallas was listening to it today, and I go, oh, yo, I haven't heard that in a while. And I was sitting there it was about, I don't know, 4 o'clock. I was sitting on the couch, just right over there, just chilling, just leaning back, lights off, just like grooving. I'm like, sitting there, I was like, man, that's a cool bass line, you know, and I sit there trying to figure it out or something, or, well, that drum groove is banging. Yeah. It's amazing. But, dude, feel good music, man.
Yeah. Well, to ask about that, too, like, how do you prefer to experience the music and really listen? Do you like to do more of, because for me, I find that sometimes I'll get too excited and I'll like run over to the piano, which I've been trying to shed piano as much as possible because of the fact that I want, you know, especially from a writing perspective, singers, you know, all too often don't write, and they can't play piano, and they don't know, you know, changes, and they don't know like reharmonization, like the ability to reharmonize and stuff. And I'm not satisfied with where, and I think all musicians should be this way, where we're not, you know, we can recognize what we're doing well, but we shouldn't be satisfied with where we're at. We should always be going forward. I don't understand complacency myself, but you know, I find that sometimes I'll be listening to something, but it feels so good that I'm like, ooh, I want to go and figure out what they're playing, and then I want to identify how that's working together, like in chord progression, right? So how is the best way that you found to experience the music, or does it vary? Like in a listening?
What do you mean, like just sitting down or laying down?
do you like to be very like actively listening, or do you like to like and even like be at the piano and kind of listen and also kind of be shedding?
I got you.
Or do you like to be laying down with the ear pods in and just be like, all right, I'm gonna let it wash over?
I just like to sit away from everything and just. I can't do in-ears anymore, dude. I have these nice headphones. I have like 3 nice, you know, pretty hefty, expensive headphones. I love that, and I just like to sit or get in the car and just drive around because and I love, and you know, I love it. And I want to go to the piano, like I have the piano over there. But and I love to go and check out what it is. But man, it's nice to just sit there and listen. And of course, being musicians, we're going to be like, oh, well, that was the, you know, I heard a tritone there, and I heard the blah, altered this and that, and I like that sound or whatever. Yeah, and I'm going to want to get my horn, and it gets me excited. But dude, I just love to sit there with over ear and in a dark room, dark. I don't like no lights on, and just sit there and just cruise and just try to gather what they're thinking. Because with me having them over ear, I mean, around the ear instead of over, it's like I want to feel what they're feeling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I want to gather every bit of information. I want to hear the key clacks of the saxophone. You know, I want to hear them breathe or something. Yeah, I want to hear where they mess up and go, ah. You know, it's I love that. I love that kind of stuff. And that's the best way for me. And it's hard. I wish I could sit and listen and just listen. Yeah. But I've just kind of realized that's never going to happen. Now, 300 million years of schooling and, you know, and trying to transcribe this because that and this and that. And, but that's the way I do it, man. It's the best thing for me.
Man, yeah, I think there's so much to be said about that, especially with, sorry for that noise. There's so much to be said about that, especially with the fact that we can't just sometimes just let it wash over us. Like we do our best to have that be the experience, but we're always, because we force ourselves in shedding to be very analytical of like, okay, what are they doing? What are they doing? How do we replicate that? Or like, transcribing and such. It's kind of hard to turn off that switch,
It is.
and
It is.
yeah, and another thing too that you were saying, where you're like, I want to hear the breathing, I want to hear the key clacks and stuff like that. That's something that I did not feel that I wanted, like especially in the second and even third album that I guess you were on both of those too, was in the mixing process and even in the mastering process. Man, I sent so many notes to both Charlie and Nick Landis about, oh, I can hear somebody breathes here. I can hear this. I can hear this. I can hear this. And Nick had this program where you can open it up and you can see all the different like sound waves and stuff. And he can just highlight a thing and delete it. And which I was like,
it's amazing.
This is black magic. And at the time I really liked it because I wanted it to be super polished. But then you listen to like, Relaxin' with the Miles Quintet. And it starts with Miles going, play it and I'll tell you what it is later.
Yeah, man. Ooh, that's exciting.
and there's something about that where it's like, it's not that it's informal, it's just real.
Exactly.
It's real, man. And it doesn't.
I want to feel it, man. I want to feel the music. I don't want to just sit there and be like, no, bro. That's my favorite. I love it. I love that. That's why, I love albums. I love listening to albums. This, that, and the other, and CDs, blah, blah, blah. But, dude, watching live stuff, man, one of my favorite moments is Brecker getting ready to play. I think it was Skunk Funk. And he's about, I'm sitting at the edge of my chair. I'm like, oh my God, here comes the break. What is this monstrosity of a saxophone solo going to be? And there he comes, 1, 2. He goes, crack. And you can see him pull it out. And he's like, fuck. And then he goes back and plays the same thing and nails it.
Yeah.
And you just like want to flip a car. You're like, whoa, it's exciting,
Yeah.
I want to see that, man. There's an album, by the way, a great tenor player in town, Eric Hargett, why am I forgetting his name? He goes, yo, there's a new Brecker album. I go, shut your face. And he sent it to me live. Yeah. Brecker Brothers, it's, what is it? European Tour, 1980, came out 2020. Whoa. And you can hear Randy Brecker like like messing up. You can hear them laughing. You can hear them talking. I'm like, yo, this is alive in the 80s when they're on fire, man.
Yeah.
And it's unbelievable, the tunes, because it's like you can hear how terrible the sound is.
Yeah.
You're just like, boo, but it just has that, it's real. And that's the thing. I don't know. It just makes me excited. But that's probably my favorite album right now to check out.
Yeah, man. I think there's an interview that Branford was doing on like a press junket for Upward Spiral, that 2015 record he did with her. And it was like a podcast, and I think he said something about where it's like so many people are so focused on getting up on stage and just making the most like polished thing that like you lose the realness of just like taking that chance. And like the virtual gig that we just did the other day that I just edited this weekend, we were doing my chart from the record Autumn Leaves, and I went for something and it just didn't work. It didn't work. I shat over the changes and it was just a clam. And then I was like, you know what? No, I gotta like keep going, because that's like the way that this is. I could do another take. I could stop it right there. I could do another take. And I think that at least where I'm at in my life and like my musical experience, I'm like, you know what? You listen to what's that tune? I'm going blank on the artist now, but I think it's Monk. But the tune Aranel on the recording, it's like gross. The trumpet player and the sax player are so out of tune with one another that it is like,
oh, dude,
it is not good. And they still put it on the record, man. They released it, they put it on the record, and it's there. But the solos are killing. And
listen to Giant Steps.
Yeah.
What's up with that Giant Steps ballad? Nope. Keep going. Sorry. Keep going.
No, but you know, like back to the Branford thing. He was like, I feel like some people just try to make this like perfectly, here's the perfectly delivered solo, and it sounds so like analytical. It sounds so what's the word for like whenever it sounds almost like it's part of school or something.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But you know what I mean, where it's just like, oh, this sounds very just like created in a laboratory, or it was premeditated, rather than being like, okay, what's going on with everybody else? Okay, I feel this vibe that like Fabio's giving me, and I'm gonna go for something. Oh shit, it didn't work, but I still have another 12 bars in the chorus, and then I can take it however many more choruses that I need in order to say what I need to say, and hopefully get some things that land a little bit better. So I don't know. I think there's definitely something to be said about like, know your limits and don't go for something that you've never gone for if it's going to be super like
bad.
Yeah, but also don't feel like you have to just, I don't know, don't feel like you have to just do what you've practiced to a T, because then there's no excitement there's no risk involved.
Man, it's funny you bring that up. It reminds me, I was doing that interview when I was doing the dissertation stuff. I interviewed Doug Lawrence. He's a buddy, tenor sax player, bassy for a long time. Talking to Doug, and and he goes, you know what I don't like? He says, I was like, what? And we're talking about the authenticity of performing. How is it? How do you play authentically? And blah blah blah. And he goes and says, he's like, I don't care what they did, and he's like, I don't care what the chart says. You play it where it feels good.
Yeah.
You go, that kind of a thing. He's like, just because it says this, or just because it's this. He's like, just go with the flow, man. He's like, you mess up, you just keep going. You just keep. That's what I love, man. I take the horn out of your mouth, stop singing, stop doing something, and just do it again. Just keep going, man. I just remember him. I don't know. I just reminded me of him saying that, and I was like, he's like, man, everybody wants to do the Basie charts, the play right here, and Basie was not clean.
Yeah,
dude, live at the Sands, they're laughing. They're just like, whatever, dude. I mean, he's over there poking fun with the tenor sax. Come on, like, it's fun, and what producer Branford was saying, it's like, it's cool to be polished, man. I would love to play the most perfect solo every single time I put the horn in my face and know that every time I pick up my flute, it's supposed to sound this way, but it's not,
Yeah.
It's hard to get past that because we all want to be perfect as players, but do we really need to? Maybe it's perfect-ish. I don't know.
Especially to put that like pressure on us as like people who are in our like 20s and our 30s. It's like, come on, man. Like one of the things Stockton Helbing told me was that like when he was playing with Doc Severinsen was like 86, 87 years old. Like I think at the time, or well, I don't know. He was probably a little younger than that, probably like 82, 83 at the time. Cause this was like 6 years ago. But he was like, yeah, man, if Doc like plays a wrong note or like flubs something, like he'll finish the gig and then he'll go into his dressing room and he'll practice for like 3 hours, so to like put this pressure on us as like 20 and 30-year-olds that it's like everything has to be like totally polished. It's like, no, man, this dude's in his 80s and he's still like shedding like a mother,
Yeah, so. Dude, you want to be the baddest. Obviously, you want to be the baddest you can be. You want to be the best you can be. I mean, dude, there's things of Brecker like heard stories of Brecker like playing a solo, going to the back and starts banging his head against the wall.
Oh, shit.
Because he didn't like something, and everyone's like, that is the greatest solo I've ever heard in my entire life. And there he is just hitting his head against the wall, and you're like, you're Michael Brecker. You know, of course we want to be perfect, but man, it's, I don't know, man. It's, you know, trying to record and trying to be, to have, you know, nail it, money every time. It's difficult, but trying to just, it's still keep it from your heart, kind of from yourself, is that's what makes it real, man. That's what makes jazz. Everyone likes when somebody goes for it. You know, if you're good and you go for it, you know, they'll be like, woo, yeah. If you're bad and you just don't care, well, then nobody wants to care about you. I don't know. It's why we shed, I guess.
For sure, man. Well, speaking too of you know, style and, you know, the never-ending goal of like perfecting that and like perfecting a solo and just like putting out stuff that's like killing. So you have your quartet, and I guess quintet, whenever it can be, like with like M.M.E, which is, I want to make sure I get the E right. It's Matthew Maldonado Experience, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you have played in every group in town, all these different like styles. You've been with Memphis Train, you've been with Wasabi, you've been with John Mills Times 10, you've been with Tonic Big Band, whatever. You've been through like all these different groups, and, you know, not even to mention like every combo under the sun. So now that you're doing something that is like very uniquely yours, not only where it's like you're playing tunes and soloing, but you have like charts and you have a book where it's like, no, this is my thing. What led you to compile the charts that you compile together, and like what does that look like from an influence perspective? Are you trying to, you know, take certain things about other people's legacy and like carry on the mantle? Obviously not where it's just kind of like a tribute thing, but like who is influencing that book, and what style have you arrived at where you're like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do at this point in my life. Matthew Maldonado, here's the group.
That's a good question. All right. A little bit of kind of, so when I've done like recitals and all that kind of stuff, I wanted to kind of pay tribute to a certain person. Did that thing, enjoyed it, had fun. I said, want to do all Brazilian music, did that. When I did the Kenny Garrett thing, wanted to do that. And I did the Michael Brecker thing. That was a lot of fun. Those are some of my favorite musicians. Didn't do a thing at Joe Beam. Did specialized tunes and stuff. And that was fun. That was great. But when I was doing my quartet and the mix of all that, I'm like, well, what did I like? And I was like, man, I love Brazilian music. I don't want to hear samba every day, so why not or I don't want to do bossa novas all day. So what's another style that we can do that's fun? What feels good? Just like we were talking about feel good music, the RH factor. What gets me excited and makes me want to pick up my horn and play? Tunes I love.
Yeah.
And I was just like, there's so many great tunes. And I'm like, dude, of course I want to play one by one. Yeah. You know, who wants us to go, boo, bop, great, you know, whatever, all horrible pitch. But like, what if I don't feel it and I want to do a little slower that day? I was like, okay, that's a great tune. I love that tune. I love Bob Reynolds tunes. I love Brecker tunes. I have Pat Metheny tunes. I have Troy Robert tunes. All it was picking the tunes that I want to play, that I know that's gonna be fun, man. I'm not sitting there going, oh, this has to sound like this or blah 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 blah. Turns out that some of the tunes are actually pretty hard, and you know, we're like, all right, these are kind of hard, but everyone's like, I want to play the gig, you know. Like it's always exciting to. Marco's played every single gig. Any gig that Ben hasn't been able to do, he shows up at anyways after his Parker gig, and it's like it makes me. Don can't do it. Fabio wanted to play, and you know, and then it's like, because I'm trying to pick tunes, and like the idea of that group was picking stuff that's so broad, you know. Yeah. I know, long-winded answer, but it's like, I wanted to get a piece of everything. I wanted everybody to have their piece of the pie within the group, for myself and the audience too. You know, yeah, it's me. It's my group. My name's stamped all over it.
Yeah.
But then now, COVID, you know, I'm wondering where is my place
Mm.
because I love playing funky stuff. I put a video out 2 days ago, whatever day ago. I don't know when this is coming out, but of playing bop, straight bop, playing a straight tune, just a straight bebop tune, you know. And
Yeah.
then I put. So now I'm starting to wonder where is my niche, and maybe things might change a little bit because I'm getting ready to probably go in and record, and I'm going to be all originals. I just got to see what's going on. You know, I'm not going to put anyone in, and just like you, man, you got to check around, see is it dangerous to be together or not. You know,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking that I don't know, man. Getting all these tunes together was a lot of fun, but I'm thinking when I do my own album, I'm definitely gonna. It's probably gonna have some sort of groove based modern vibe to it. You know,
Mm.
I love bop music, dude. My favorite stuff is playing confirmation, playing Donna Lee in weird keys, and you know how nerdy can I get playing Parker tunes in different keys.
Yeah.
You know, like how exciting is this? But I think now it's been a long time, and especially for yourself, where do you want to fit, and can you accept it for yourself? I know that's kind of deep, but it's like you, man. What made you go? This is what I want to do. And you've all, man. I've seen you since you were a kid. You know, like,
Mm.
and your evolution. You're like, no, it's going to be like this, and you could see the morph. You could see your brain and all your albums. I get to be a part of. I'm lucky to be a part of. It's the same way for me, you know. But the book now is just stuff I really want to play, and I have like 15 more charts that I haven't even told the guys about, you know. But
Yeah.
I know I'm just chatting away, talking, but it's
No, man.
tough, man.
I want to know about all of it. And another thing too that I felt almost a little bit guilty about, but I I think it's necessary is that, I was having Russell, transcribe a bunch of Kurt charts, and I wanted to
Yeah,
start playing those live because there's a difference between listening to those tunes over and over and over again, which I listen to Kurt like 4 or 5 hours a day, man.
yeah.
And part of that, some people definitely have the opinion where it's like, man, you're listening to Kurt too much.
We make fun of you, man. We're just playing. I want you to know.
No,
Just kidding, but
no, I mean, just like people in general, like people who aren't even
really?
musicians, like my mom. If I start to say like, her, if I go just call her every like 3 weeks, and I'm like, she's like, hey, what are you doing? I was like, oh, I was just like listening and shedding some Kurt stuff, and she's like, oh, here we go again, like Kurt.
Even your mom does it.
But
That's
like,
funny.
man, the thing is that I'll never forget another. I feel like I've said I'll never forget so many times.
Doesn't matter.
Like I was playing this gig with Colin, man, at Intercontinental Stephen F. Austin back in like 2018,
Oh, I remember that gig. Yeah,
and we
I
were
remember you're gonna have it.
yeah, we were talking about Kurt, and he was talking about Brad because like his dude was Brad, and he was like, man, he's like, I know you probably get a lot of shit for like diving into the Kurt stuff, and this was sort of early on. I mean, I had been listening to him for a couple of years, and he was like, but man, you have to fully learn every nuance of, like, as much as you can, every nuance about that dude, and like all the different, or just people in general, and like their arrangements and their like writing style and their thought process, and try to like think about how you would do things in a similar way before you can start to think about how you want to do things, because you have to fully
Exactly.
dive into what you like, and then you can start to branch off. And I think Kenny Williams was telling me this too. He was like, even though you will take influences of what you like, the things that you write will be you because it's you and it's not that person. So like, even if you try to write an arrangement that you think Lawrence Hopgood or Stu Mindeman or Kurt Elling would collaborate together on, it's not going to be a Kurt arrangement because it's not Kurt, and it's not Stu, and it's not Lawrence. It's you. And even though sometimes there can be maybe a little too much influence, like arguably, because it's like, oh, it's not your own thing. At the same time, it's like, man, if you don't find so deeply like in your soul, what it is that you want to play, you won't find it, man, because you can't just dabble in a lot of different stuff a little bit and then find your thing. You have to find really what speaks to you, to your soul, that like
Exactly.
makes you feel like it's cinematic, larger than life, or like, dare I say, like a fucking spiritual experience where you feel an out of body thing where you're like, whoa, like I don't want to go back to earth, whatever that was, like, because where
Yeah,
I'm at
man.
is such a high. So to hear you say that you're like, yeah, man, I was doing these Pat Metheny's, Troy Roberts, Michael Brecker, like all this sort of stuff. And then through that, you found all these other charts and all this other stuff that you want to do a record. To that, or to me, that sounds like the most honest, like you were talking about soloing, man. It's your honesty.
Yeah, man.
It's what you're saying. That sounds to me, it's like, okay, here's the book. It has arrangements that I like, and now here's arrangements that are my own. And you can hear, you know,
like
sorry,
you
I went
can
off
hear
too.
it. No, bro, it's like you can hear the influence that everyone has. Everyone knows. Everybody knows that I have that Brecker kind of Bob Malik kind of thing where if I want to play smoothish but not really smooth, but like Saturday Night Live, I'm gonna do it, man. I'm gonna pop off on it, you know. That's just what comes out of what's I've. But it's not going to sound smooth because you're going to hear some sort of bebop language that's instilled in my life, you know, like in my ears, you know. But it's you. That's why it's like, man, you gather all this material, and like, man, when I dive into stuff, it's obnoxious. Like, I will live it. I will live through Brecker albums. I will live through Cannibal Adderley. Dude, you hear me on tenor and alto? I don't sound anything the same. You hear me on soprano? I don't sound anything the same. It's just how it is. Because it's all the influences, you know, you take that you just gather and like, man, put your heart and soul into. I mean, Kirk is bad, dude. And you can hear what you've taken from him, and then what you've had in your practicing from years of experience, and then your ideas of what you do now because you've spent time on the piano. I know you played piano. I could hear you playing piano. When we've hung out and stuff, and it's like you can hear all these things when you get to that level. And it's hard to not want to play everything. You know, but when you find what you want to do, it's like, yo, this is cool. And it's always scary, man. You know, I mean, you put yourself out there, this is your fourth time album? This is going to be your fourth one?
Third, and then, and then we're working on the next,
Yeah, when your next stuff.
About.
Oh, cool. You know, I'm aboard. But, you know, it's like, you've done it already, and I haven't done it. I feel like I've been on everyone else's album but my own, which is funny. It's like I've done everyone else's project but my own. You know, it's like I've done. I don't know. It's just funny, man. This is good. When I play with you at Monks, it's my fifth time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I couldn't do the Pete one. That didn't work out. And I'm doing all these other ones. I'm like, I need to focus on my own thing. But it's so, I don't know, man. Because the thing about doing your own stuff, it's like you have to take it. Because it gets personal, obviously.
Yeah.
And you're like, man, are they gonna like it? What are they gonna think? And you've done it 3 times, which I commend you for. That's awesome, man. But it's like, where do I fit? And how, or do I want to fit?
Yeah.
You know, I love, and I'm starting to see. I'm like, do I care enough to fit?
Yeah.
You know, man, you listen to Bob Reynolds albums, and you're like. And then all of a sudden you hear him play a bebop gig with Jay Jennings, and you're like, shut up, man, you bastard. You know, it's like, go away, dude. And you sound killing on both, you know. But you hear his stuff, and it's nowhere near the same. That's why I want to be that kind of a person. It's like, this is my stuff, but I can do your stuff exactly the way you want it to be.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of the player I've always wanted to be. And I'm not there yet, but I'm still working on it. But man, with this album that I'm writing for it. I have 7, 8 songs. I'm probably gonna end up writing 1,000,000 of them and then just picking whatever I want, you know. But taking all these tunes that I put in the book and the ideas and thoughts and sounds, and I'm still listening to things every day. It's like, I'm listening to Shaka Khan earlier today. That stuff is ridiculous. I love it.
Yeah.
But what can you gather? Everything has, I don't care if you're a good or a bad player, everyone has something to offer, and you can gather some sort of information to make yourself into what you want to be.
Yeah, man.
But that's just crazy. I don't know. That's how I want to be as a player, and noticed as a player, not like, he's like, well, he can only do this one thing. I'm like, man, I can't be, for myself as an album, fine. But as a player, I can't, dude. I'm playing with you. I'm playing with Pete. First, I'll tell you the scariest part of COVID was going to the first gig being with Sparky. You ready? Yeah, man. Well, oh, shit. And then a soprano solo. I told him, Sparky, can you, my lips all, and I was like, Sparky, bro, can you take the first one, this next one? One soprano solo, one heavy one after 6 months of being off, bro.
Dude.
I'm telling you, man. I don't know. I'm talking just out of my butt now, but it's just like, I don't know. That's the way I think of, everything. You're just trying to be the best possible musician I could possibly be in. But for my group, it's playing tunes that I love, that the guys love. The guys love the tunes. Yeah. This is the best part. You're not super close to the stage. I always go, what do y'all want to play next? And they just go, and then you just hear Ben go, ooh, let's play this one. Or you hear Marco go, hey, let's do this one. Or Don, or, people are like, oh, that one's cool. And that makes me happy. They're not like, man, I don't know about that,
Yeah.
So hopefully people will take my tunes that I've written and accept it in that way too. You're like, we're doing this tune? Oh, heck yeah. I love that tune. Oh, I love that tune.
Yeah.
But where do you fit?
Yeah. Man, I have something to say about that. Real quick, do you mind if I run and use the restroom real quick and then come right back? Okay.
Go.
1 second. Yeah, man. No, like I had something to say about that too, is like I've always felt that where, every single gig that I'm playing, I kind of turn around to the band and I say, hey, what would you guys like to play next? Just like you were saying. And, sometimes people will be like, oh, you're the band leader, like whatever you want to play. But for me, like, let's say we're playing a gig and I go into the gig being like, man, the only tune I don't want to play, and I would never say this about this tune because it's a killing tune, but let's say I'm like, I do not want to play Out of Nowhere. I don't want to play it. I've played it every day for the past fucking 10 gigs. I don't want to play that tune anymore. And then I say like, hey guys, what do you want to play? And then James goes, oh man, you want to play Out of Nowhere? I'll be like, hell yeah, dude. Let's play it. Because of the fact that I'm excited that other people want to play that tune,
Yeah, dude.
That makes it more exciting because it's like, it's no longer like, oh, what do I want to play? And I think that's what's cool and specifically like more convenient about having a book is that you don't have like the added, I mean, you could do this even if you have a book. You don't have like the risk of being like, hey, do you know this tune? And the person's like, no, I don't know that tune. And it's like, oh, well, it kind of like falls flat, a little bit. But especially with having a book, it's like, what do you guys want to play next? And the person's like, oh, dude, let's do this arrangement that you already have in there because everybody knows it. And that also comes from just like playing with people for a long time.
Yeah, for sure.
But then it's like, oh yeah, it's so much more exciting because somebody else specifically is excited to play it. So then you feel like there's an added bonus, to playing.
It's always fun, yeah. Define a tune that's like everyone listens to. Like, dude, I mean, there's a lot of people that are like, I don't want to play that Hargrove tune. Was it the Strasbourg? But dude, that tune is a banger every day. That tune is gonna be killing. It's always cool. I know people have worn it out.
Yeah.
But dude, even the most mopey person, you're gonna see them be like,
yeah.
Like, I see you moving. Why are you grooving? You angry old man.
Yeah.
Or woman or whatever.
Sure.
Like you're still having fun. Shut your face. It's stupid. Like,
yeah.
It's funny because a lot of times you're like, "What do you guys want to play?" And I'm literally like, I go, "Whatever you want, man." And
Yeah.
like I say that, and then I'm thinking in my head, I go, "Man, I hope these guys don't think that." And the guys like James and them are just like, "Nah, I'm the same way. Whatever you want, man." And like a lot of times we're just like, "I hope Christian doesn't think we don't care." Like I literally don't care. I just want to play. I'm just like,
Yeah.
"Whatever you want, man." I just love to play, man. That's just how it is. But I like, I don't know, man. I like picking cool tunes, man. I like these finding new stuff, and it's hard to find some of these tunes. You have to write them out.
Yeah.
It's like, jeez, dude. Like, so I got that show coming up November 1st, Fabio, or it might, I don't know when this is coming out, but
Yeah, it's coming out on Thursday. So
oh, okay. So yeah, November 1st, definitely check that out, peoples, if you have an opportunity. And that music is incredible.
really,
Every every song, man. Because when you pick the stuff, there's not a song you're like, when you pick the stuff from an artist, and most people are kind of like, this is cool. Dude, nobody cares, man. Everybody just wants to play.
Yeah.
And the music he picked it's all Brazilian music. No Jobim. No San Antonio Carlos Jim Beam. None of that. Jobim. No Jobim, man. And it's the tunes are, I mean, there's some wicked stuff in there.
yeah,
I was telling you earlier, there's some lines in there. And like, I text Fabio right before this. I was like, "Hey, bro, I'm not gonna take the first solo on this one." There's no way.
yeah,
It's literally just a whole page of 16 notes. I was like, I'm gonna have to tag in Marco here,
yeah,
and you're gonna have to get someone to solo after me so I catch my breath, because this is it was written by the accordion player. And so they're just there taking big old breaths the whole time, and
big old breath the whole time.
big old breaths, enjoying themselves.
Put
It's
them in
funny,
put them at Fair Market in November 3 years ago. Yeah, the outside gig, and let them play all those notes with all the super fast.
Oh, you want to play chords now? I see. Weird. That's how it goes, dude.
Well, yeah, man. That also reminds me that we just did. It won't be out by the time this comes out, but I just did an episode with. Man, do you know Dan Chmielinski?
Who the heck is that?
He's a bass player up in New York, who plays with like the 8-Bit Big Band, and when Stephen Fifeke and Benny.
Oh yeah. I know who it is.
Yeah, he also cut the second record from Joey Alexander, which is called Countdown. Which is just Joey's trio, which is him, Ulysses, and Dan Chmielinski. I just had him on, and he was saying, because he does so many projects, man. He's like a sideman and like all these other things, and he does this like bass and vocal duo thing called Shimmy Tina with Martina da Silva, and then he also has this thing where it's like 8 synths and an EWI and drums, and it's called Circuit Kisser, and it's badass. And dude, it's so nasty. And we were talking about this, and he was like, yeah, man, he's like, I don't want to record a standards record. He's like, there's nothing wrong with recording standards records. He's like, I don't want to do that. He's like, I want to do the stuff where like, if I were to hear it, I'd go, shit, I can't believe I didn't think of that first. He's like, I want to make stuff that nobody's thought about yet. And I was like, man, if that isn't like, I mean, not to say anything about, just like strict bebop stuff, not to say that that's not valid in its own right, because you could make bebop records for the rest of your life, nothing but just straight bop and hard bop, and it would be more than enough. But like the idea of like pushing the envelope forward and always like figuring out what the next thing's going to be, because I mean, you look at like, you look at jazz, every decade it's been pushed forward by a new subgenre under the umbrella of jazz, which is like, jazz is an all-encompassing term, man. It's not, that's the thing that I noticed too, is like, I just had somebody, I just got those physical copies of the album which I need to get you one, is someone bought one that I sent to them, and they sent me a message back, and they said, hey, really enjoying the album. This is a style or a part of jazz I've never heard before. It's very different. I'm excited to be experiencing it, and for me, I was like, that's like the point of this whole thing, is like trying to get people to experience all the different sides of jazz. And that's why we program albums the way that we program them, because it's like, oh, like not everything has to be a sampler plate, but at the same time, we want to like have people be exposed and experience things that they have not experienced before. I don't know. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, man, it's funny, and a lot of times people they think, oh, you play jazz? They think of that like old time bad recording weird stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then you sit there and then they'll say it like that, and which is fine, it's your opinion. I was like, but have you heard, like, okay, well, we joke about it, Big Butter and Eggman tunes like that. Dude, that tune is amazing. Come on, dude. They started Potato Head Blues, yeah, Louis Armstrong playing,
Yeah.
Had they listened to Fletcher Henderson stuff? Yeah, man, it's funny. And then they're like, wow, this is way different. And like, I'm on your album, and I mean, there's some stuff in there that's definitely pretty cool. It's all cool, but it's not like we're changing the game. And it's funny that you hear people go, this is so incredibly different.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, this is a incredible album, like, which it is. I love that I'm on it, but it's funny. It's just like, man, you got to check out some stuff, baby.
Yeah. Man,
it's so funny, man, because I don't know. Go ahead.
well, I was just gonna ask. I didn't want to like cut off that side of things prematurely, but I was also gonna ask of, this is a very different side of things that we haven't talked about yet. But the fact that you've done some of those like touring Broadway shows, and like we talked about the classical stuff, we talked about the jazz group and albums. What's that like, man? Like,
dude, that's scary. It's the when I got that call from Mike Mordecai, Matt Maldonado, you want to come and do a Broadway show? I just said, yeah. You don't question it. I heard he goes, what's the book? And you get there, and I mean, I played shows before, but the Broadway thing it's different. Like, obviously, Mike Saylor's done a million of them, and he's done them out there, but he's done them here. He's done more than probably everybody. But man, you show up, and it's crazy because you get a practice book, and this is the nerve-wracking part. You get a practice book that you've marked and you've done your homework on. Then they take that book as soon as you get there, and they ship it off to the next place, and they give you a whole different book that's and you're like, well, all the stuff that I needed to know for myself is now gone, so I'm on deep shit. So it's funny, but it's stressful, man. I mean, if you're not on your toes, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Like, after, the fifth show or something, you sit there and you're like, and he said, da-da-da, like the girl was saying, you say it with them, and like we're looking at the band and we're making jokes together and making stupid faces, and we're like mouthing the lines and stuff, and we know what's coming up. But it's terrifying, man. I mean, the prep work is, you got to be on your game. You have to be on your game. You cannot go in there and, shitting the bed and expect to stick around. Because, man, I remember immediately someone, I'm not even going to say what instrument, they looked over to a section and they go, we need to talk after. And I was like, woo! And it wasn't to me. It wasn't to me. So I was so terrified with those shows that you got to be on your game, man.
Yeah.
You miss something, you have a solo, you're the cue for the singer.
Yeah.
Crap it all over it, man.
Yeah. Another thing too about that is like, Mike was telling me that, with the Broadway stuff, there's a producers there every night who have heard that shit a million times, and the slightest we'll be nice and call it reinterpretation.
Yeah, nobody wants to hear
of the
that.
tune. Dude, they know that shit, and it's like, like, and marked. But then not only that, like, I mean, I doubt that it's this way with, because like you did Hello Dolly, and I doubt that it's this way with audience members on this, but like, let's talk about newer musicals that are all the rage right now, like Waitress and Hamilton. Dear Evan Hansen. So like, I haven't seen Hamilton, but I've seen Dear Evan Hansen and Waitress, and like, I know, because I've listened to those albums, like I know those arrangements, can like sing those arrangements back to you, especially like with like the big hits, like orchestration wise. And so, and it's not a far cry to say that like a lot of people who are fine with listening to the same thing, like a lot of people who are obsessed with those musicals, listen to that shit all the time. So they know, man. Like, even if you can't say, oh yeah, the lead trumpet missed this thing, they know if it doesn't sound album, legitimate, or like the same as the album. So there's that added pressure for a lot of those like newer or famous or very like frequently listened to original Broadway cast recordings, where it's like, not only do the actors on stage know if you screwed something up, but the audience could too.
They know, man. I got a couple looks. Everyone gets a couple looks.
Yeah.
And I remember as one part, man, I could see it on the page. It's this clarinet thing, and so when you're sitting there, there's times where you can't put your instrument down.
Yeah.
You're holding two instruments down. I wrote on my other book that I handed in that there was already shipped off, which is funny because they shipped it to Georgia, and the guy who was playing the book was actually a UT graduate that I knew. I'm like, this is ridiculous. It's funny. And the guy before me is a friend from Denver that was David's professor, combo instructor, and so like, this is hilarious. I played right after, so it's, everyone kind of knows. But, and I wrote down this part. I wrote something down specific, like put down clarinet, hold alto or something like that. I picked up the flute. I had my alto on sling. They call it sling, neck strap. Yeah. I had the clarinet. I had the flute, and I have a solo coming up. And I had like maybe one measure, and it was up 2, 3, 4. I had that much time, so I couldn't. The pit's dark, so you got to fish for like to try to put it down. I didn't have time, so I flipped it under my arm. I'm sitting there like this, like leaning over. The saxophone's like mouthpiece is pushing in my face.
Oh my God.
The clarinet's there, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like this far away from breaking my reed, hitting it with the flute. Yeah. And so I finished that solo, and then I have like 2 measures to get the clarinet and play that. And so I went boom. It's like I didn't mark it in on their music, but I had it marked it on mine. Dude, stuff like that happens, and it's a big flute solo. And on Hello Dolly, it's a and then she mimics it.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be like the bird or something. And I'm sitting there uncomfortable as hell. And like I could hear Paul Baker behind me going, because he knows I'm not. I'm like, they're like, holding on my stuff. No. The clarinet's falling out of my armpit. And I'm like, oh no. So, dude, you got to be on it, man. It's the prep work. It's so much prep work because for the brass guys, they have their mutes, obviously, which is very difficult. But maybe they're just playing trumpet.
Yeah.
The woodwind guys, we get we're SOL. So I did the summer musical at Zilker.
Yeah, you did Little Mermaid, right?
Little Mermaid, dude, that was absolute scary because I had the low book. So I had alto sax, clarinet, which was like 90% clarinet, soprano, and bass clarinet. So you're sitting there, and here comes Ursula, and you're like, man, here we go. So you're there grabbing the bass clarinet, and you're having to hold an instrument like in an awkward position.
Oh.
The singer misses a line, so and immediately it's all head cues. The pianist is sitting there conducting. They're doing, and so they miss a head cue, and if you don't know that you're not paying attention, and they miss that cue, your solo's out, dude. Like, you're done. Like, don't. You don't just go, well, oh, let me get my time. You say, nobody cares what you're doing in the pit until they realize you're wrong.
Right. Yeah.
So it's just, dude, it's the most fun. I mean, if I could do that full time or something, I would do it. I mean, I'm down,
You feel like it takes years off your life, though, that kind of stress?
A lot of people, well, when you've done the show multiple times,
it's clockwork.
You're just like, what's up. So you sit there and you're like, she missed that, or he missed that.
Yeah.
Oh crap, that wasn't supposed to happen there. Like, it's funny, man. It's that's the exciting part of it. The Broadway one was obviously they're not messing around.
Yeah.
They're not playing like that. Look, I still remember missing. Oh man, the whole point was to tell you. So right after that whole clarinet flute alto debacle, I couldn't put my flute down fast enough, and I like hit the stand. It was like clink, and then I was like, "Damn, dude!" And it was loud. And then you just see, yeah, dude. And the director just goes, and I went, and then he goes. And so I sat there, and he knows the show so well, these guys, directors, he just sits back down and just goes on his phone.
Oh my God.
That's just what they do, man. That's what, once you get the show and you know it, you're just like, whatever, dude. You go back to Facebook and talking to people.
Yeah. Well,
people have their books.
In retaliation to whenever Paul Baker looked back at you or like snickered or whatever, you should have just, as soon as you made that loud noise, you should have just looked over and been like, man.
Dude, it's funny, man, because he sat right behind me and he was just telling out. And dude, you got to be on top of your game, man. You really got to do it. It's fun. I love the challenge, but the thing is, like the whole thing of playing classical, it's like, dude, all of a sudden you're supposed to sound like a bird.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden Ursula's big old fat butt is coming through the door. Yeah. And you got to sound like on bass clarinet. And all of a sudden, everyone's clapping on 1 and 3. You're like, oh no. You hear the kids singing along, which is adorable.
Yeah.
And then, but it's like, you can't miss it. You can't miss that kind of stuff. And it's just, I don't know. I love it. I wish I could do that all the time. And, living in an apartment, it's like, nope, I can guarantee you nobody wants to hear me playing piccolo.
Yeah.
Working on my high register.
Everyone would love to hear you play Under the Sea, though. Just like,
oh, dude, man. Well, let me get out my instrument real quick. Let's get to it.
Dude, in the last apartment we had, man, before we moved places, just like a couple months ago, there was this one guy who was like 2 apartments beneath us. We were on the 4th floor. He must have been like 2 apartments beneath us. But he would open his like sliding glass door because we had like Juliet balcony. So and it was like a big like courtyard in the middle, because it was like the outsides of the building, but then like that kind of, how they always have like the courtyard in the middle. And he, man, bless his heart, was trying to figure out how to play Back in Black and Thunderstruck. So you would hear or whatever that like, whatever the Thunderstruck thing is. And then you'd also hear "Bah, banana, banana."
Yeah, the hard lick.
We couldn't do the lick, Dad.
Oh no!
But he would dude, he would blast his amps. You'd just hear it. But he would literally just practice both licks back and forth. And every time he would mess one up, he'd go to the other. He wouldn't like shed it. And it was like, oh my God. Like, I have a video, I'll send it to you. Where it was
Please, dude, that's hilarious.
Because it was like 4 months of that, like every afternoon at 2:30 in the afternoon.
Hey, he was consistent.
Hey, you know what? To his credit, he was consistent. 4 months, never got any better. But you know what?
Yeah.
Live your dream.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, that boy still worked hard. God damn it.
You know what?
4 months.
2:30 became Kerr's light time.
You should have hit him with the shush that we do to you at gigs. Shh.
No, I would go down to the courtyard. He'd be like overlooking. I'd be like,
You gotta cut him off, dude. You should have helped him, dude. You got a music degree.
I do have one. I do have a music degree. Oh my God, man. It's so funny. Well, man, I've kept you for a while.
It's all good.
Want to tell you the last two things that I always ask in every episode. So the first one is if you could pick for listeners to go, like as soon as they're done with this, to go listen to anything, just like an album that either is like your all-time favorite album or something you've been listening to this week or something that you'd like always come back to. Like what would you say people need to go check out?
Dude, that Brecker album, the newest one, let me get the name of it again. The live and unreleased European tour in 1980. The Brecker Brothers came out 2020, man. It's so cool. It's really cool because I think it came out like March, right when COVID kind of took over everyone's life. Yeah. And it's, I just remember Eric Hargett texted me pretty excited about it. And I was like, okay. And I remember I was driving in my car and I'm like, all right, stop, like, boom, put it on. Oh man, it's real. It's as real as it gets.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the one. Check it out, y'all.
I will go check it out, man, because I haven't heard it either. And then the last thing is always, and oh boy, I'm excited for this one.
I have a feeling I know what it is.
The last question is: we all have gigs from hell. We're sideways. And I'm not talking about little gigs from hell where we have to play That's Life and the Sprint or the saxophones.
Yeah, that's my fun.
But just like where it's like, dude, I cannot believe this is happening right now. So what's your what takes the cake for your gig from hell?
Oh, it wouldn't be any. Well, there's a couple of them. There's a few. They're pretty funny. There is one that's with us when we went to El Paso. Remember? And immediately.
Which one?
Oh, I know, right? Which you'll know the one when I tell you. So we went to El Paso. We played for 20 minutes, and they're like, "Can we have the DJ?" And so we were like, "What?" You're like, "Yep, you're done." That wasn't a gig from hell, but it's just funny that we went all the way to El Paso, and I just remember Paul Deemer was on it. He was visiting his family, and he goes, "What the hell?" And that was funny. That's one, but okay. So I got more. The funnier that was probably like a kind of a funny thing that happened, but the ones where you just cannot believe are definitely the party band gigs, man.
Sure.
Oh, man, if I could do a whole episode on stuff I've seen, this is probably the best one. I think I may have the picture. If I do, you got yourself a thumbnail. So there is one gig, I know I have the picture somewhere. We're sitting there playing. It's me and Justin Smith, and it's the Memphis Train gig. And, party bands, man, like, I know a lot of times they go, I don't want to be here. That's fine, whatever. It can be a little gruesome and kind of boring. nobody cares you're there or whatever. But at times starts having some fun. Well, right in the middle, this girl comes out in with this horse head mask and's out there just tearing it up, doing like robot dance moves. And I just remember sitting there. I put my horn down, and like there's this big horn song where it was like a Stevie Wonder tune. It's like, come on, man. And
yeah.
Big old Stevie Wonder horn section too. Oh, Sir Duke.
Sir Duke. I was about to say it's probably
Sir Duke. And we're supposed to come in, and she comes out. We're and I just remember putting my horn down, and Justin. I don't know who was on trombone. Might have been Alton. And we were just going, what the hell? And she's out there with the horse head dancing. She's one of the bridesmaids. It was probably the funniest and like, what the hell's going on gig that I've ever. I mean, that was one that's like, for viewers, that's one. You want to hear some other ones, you hit me up on Instagram.
Have you ever had one where you've been like scared of like, you're like, I don't know how this is going to play out?
Like you should, like you're like, yeah. I wasn't on it. I wasn't playing the song. It was it was supposed to be. It wasn't even a band from Austin. No, it wasn't a band from Austin. It wasn't. I'm not gonna say where it was from, but it wasn't Austin. I know that for sure. Show up to the gig. Get the book. It's in a wrong key. The whole book's in the wrong key. I know that for sure. And because they were singing along and I was playing, I was like, "Oh, this ain't gonna be good." Then we get to they're gonna have the dances, and he goes, "Man, you learned the song?" And he goes, "Yeah." They go, "All right, cool." He kicked off the song, and it wasn't the right song.
Oh no!
Yeah, it was completely wrong song, and I can't remember what the name of the song. It was a wedding. And I just remember standing on the side. I had that feeling like this isn't going to go well because they didn't really check the tune. You like to check the tune, man. Even, we need to check the mics. Cool. Well, this isn't All of Me. We don't need to go over it. If this is All of Me or this is Fly Me to the Moon or whatever, we got it. But this was like man, I don't know, dude, like a pretty popular country song. Oh, no. Like a George Strait song, and they kicked it off like some funky tune, and I was like, that's not the song. The guitar player just went, and I was like, oh, woo, that's not it. There it is. That's the one for you.
Oh, man.
Clip it.
This has to have happened a million times, but I can't wait for the story of when somebody wants All of Me. They want like the John Legend for the first
game. Dude.
But then they play the Gerald Marks.
Oh, absolutely. And we always joke about stuff like that when, I start singing on gigs that I just messing around in the background and stuff. And,
man.
I don't know. That's just how it goes, man. But that's probably some of the craziest, weirdest stuff I've come across. There's some other stuff that's like, wow.
Man, people are probably tired of hearing me say it, but I need for you specifically to know this one is Mike told me a couple of his like craziest gigs, and he said that like he was playing the event band, like private event circuit, like super hard in New York, pretty quickly, and they would have this one, I guess, entertainment company or whatever that they would book like the same band like 3 times in a day, but it was like the same band name, but it was like 3 different bands, like the A, B, and C team, right? But the band or like band leader and like MC would go to all 3. So he'd like go to the morning one, and then he would like skip out, like do his thing, and then just like jet out of there, go to the next one, get like the notes from the coordinator, play the gig, and then like speed to the other one. So Mike was playing the nighttime one, and this guy already had like 2 other gigs, and he's running late. And this guy like busts in the door like last minute and like runs up and gets like the one sheet from the coordinator that has like the bridal party that he's supposed to introduce everybody in. And he runs up there, he's like, hey, I'm gonna be your MC or whatever. All professional, but still late. And starts just like the equivalent of like sight reading, like the names, right? Didn't even look at it.
Oh, no.
Surely did not look at it before, by the way this story ends. And he just like gets all the way down. And then like the people were like, they're escorting them in by like him announcing the names. And he goes, all right, mother of the bride, deceased. Oh, and then like, dude, he said the whole gig was over, man. The gig was over because like everyone's paying attention. They're all like walking in. He's like, mother of the bride, deceased. Oh, you know. Just like, can you imagine, man, if we did that on a gig? He just said the whole place just felt like deathly silent. And he was just like, oh, no.
Oh, no, dude. That takes the cake, I think.
That's pretty gnarly.
I got some other ones, but they're not nothing like that. That's dark. Aw. I want to know what happened after.
I know, man. We're going to have to call him up, figure out
I
what
might
happened.
have to text him and be like, I'm just going to text him deceased right now, see what he says.
Ridiculous. Well, Matt, man, thank you so much for being on.
Of course.
Everybody, go check out. Well, what do you have to plug? Because I know you're going to be on that Monk show.
Oh, yeah.
Monk show. What else you got?
November 1st, Monks, doing the Monks thing. November 12th, I'm with you. Yep. We're doing the album release. Definitely check the album out, buy the album. I think it's on everything, Spotify, iTunes.
The whole bit. CD.
Bandcamp, Camp Band, whatever. Everything else, CDs. Buy the CD. It's an amazing CD. It's really, really good.
That's true.
Napster, LimeWire, download it.
Frostwire.
Kazaa. Whatever you got to do. Man, I don't know. Head over to the Maldonado Music, Instagram, you know, look at my page, Facebook. Cool. I'm working on a website, so keep that in mind. Probably by the time this comes out, it should be up and running. I got a few more things. And that's about it, man. Just until, you know, COVID is tamed.
Tamed?
I don't know how to.
Under control.
Yeah. Whatever we need to do.
Yeah.
That's all I got for you guys. Thank you for having me, of course. And of course, thank you for having me. And
of course.
Hopefully get to see you sooner than later because this is retarded. I hate this.
Yeah.
I hate just texting and not seeing people.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'll see you, if nothing else, in 2 weeks. And yeah, everybody go check out that live stream and check out the track that is made by Matt Maldonado's multiple instruments on Piece at the end of the album. I mean, everybody gives like the most compliments on that track, man.
Good,
like,
good. I'm glad.
They're like, oh, you had like all these players. I was like, no, man, this one dude, like those things, man.
This one dude who's stressed out. Nah, it was worth it. That's they did it. I mean, who was
Charlie Kramsky.
Okay, that's right. Oh, that's right, Charlie. Yeah, Charlie's the man. Yeah, check it out, guys. It's a great album.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you so much again. I'll see you soon.
Of course.
And, yeah, stay safe.
All right, buddy. I'll see you, man.
Peace.